Hey there. I'm here with Minute Earth. Why do eels look like snakes? You might think that they just kind of do. But in reality, their snake-like appearance is an example of something called convergent evolution. Basically, similar traits in two different groups of animals that evolved independently from a common ancestor. Take, for instance, the axolotl. It's a type of salamander that looks a lot like a small, scaled snake. The two groups, the axolotls and the snakes, are so different that if we were to construct a phylogenetic tree, the branch that they're on would be very far apart. That's because they last shared a common ancestor more than 300 million years ago. Yet they both ended up looking like, well, snakes. That's because they both evolved elongated bodies and small limbs that are useful for slithering through underbrush. They also both have small eyes and are generally dark-colored, which helps them camouflage underground. In other words, even though they're not closely related, they both became snake-like because that's the best way to move through their particular environment. But wait a minute, there are tons of animals that hang out in the same environment. Why did only some of them evolve into snake-like shapes? Well, it has to do with how natural selection works. You see, traits don't just appear out of nowhere. They have to arise from genetic mutations that occur at some point in an animal's DNA, and the chance of any one mutation occurring is pretty low. For instance, in order for an axolotl to evolve into an axolotl-like salamander, a bunch of specific mutations would need to occur, including changes to its body shape, color, limb length, and more. So, while many salamanders might live in the same habitat and face the same selective pressures, only some of them will actually end up evolving into axolotls. It's just a matter of chance. The same is true of eels. There are tons of fish that live in similar environments, but only some have evolved into eel shapes. Take, for instance, the mudskipper. Its body is flattened from side to side instead of top to bottom, which makes it perfectly suited for slithering around on land. But it's not slit. In fact, the only part of its anatomy that resembles that of a snake are its small limbs. So why don't all fish become snake-like? The answer is simple. There's no selective pressure pushing them in that direction. Being an eel isn't necessarily advantageous in the struggle for survival or reproductive success. So, while eels and snakes are very different animals that independently evolved from very different ancestors, they both ended up looking like snakes simply because it was the best way to adapt to their environment. So next time you see a snake, just remember that it could have easily been a fish or an amphibian, or maybe even a mammal. After all, early mammals like Protodon and Ambulocetus also had elongated bodies and small limbs, which helped them as they moved from water to land. So, what do you think? Have you ever wondered why dolphins have such small brains? Leave your thoughts below. And speaking of brains, did you know that your brain has a hard limit on how much information it can process every second? It's true. Your brain just can't handle more than a few pieces of complex information every second. That's why it often feels like there's too much to read, watch, and listen to. Every day you're bombarded with information from all sides, but your brain just can't handle it all. Thanks for watching.